Well, welcome. This is our Mindset Mastery, and today is April the 23rd, 2020. And I am so happy to be here and welcome you. My name is Stephanie Allen, and I live in Amherst, Nova Scotia, and my company is Gateway Development. And you can find me at Gateway Wellness in Church Street, or you can the website www.gatewaydevelopment.ca. So there's been a lot of things going on, and where we are right now in our lives, there's just so much uncertainty, so much. So here's the thing, there's so much uncertainty, and yet there's also so much possibility. And I like to say it's about like the polarities of the opposites. There's great things happening, there's horrible things happening. There doesn't seem to be anything in between. It's like one or the other. And in these times, and if we look back in history, in these times, pain and passion and great upheaval always give great birth to great opportunities. So just a little bit about myself. I'm actually going to share a little bit of my screen here, if that's okay with you all, and give you a little bit of that. There. All right. So this is Mindset Mastery, staying healthy in times of uncertainty and change. So just a little bit about myself here. Thing doesn't seem to want to move. Are you able to see this? I'm not sure if you are or not, or hang on here, where did we go? Technical difficulties there. So this is a little bit of myself here. So let's see if we can try this again. There we go. So just a little bit of background. I've been a therapist for probably close to 30 years now. And I've had a lot of little different things. And what I'm going to share with you today has directly connected to my own personal experience. When we go through turbulent times and there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of loneliness, and a lot of disconnection, there's also great opportunity. And I'm going to help you with 3 things today that have really helped me. And years ago, when I left Nova Scotia and I went across the country, I really didn't know who I was or what I wanted. And I had left in a really hard place. Well, I ended up rising up out of the ashes on that, and I ended up down in the United States and was doing really well until 9/11 happened. So I had another incident where things really came crashing down, and it was just a heartbreak for me. And I know in our lives, we really wake up when there's a lot of pain. And I see this with my clients as well. When there's a great amount of suffering or a great amount of pain, it makes us very present, very, very present for what's important and what's true for us. And it's as if all the other things that we got busy with kind of fall away. And that's exactly what happened to me. So in September 11th of 2001, I had that wake up call of, what am I doing way down here in the United States? I want to come home. It was so clean and clear to me. And I had made a promise to myself that I really wanted to live more true, more connected to what I valued and what I loved. And so I came home, and I needed to have a way to be able to do that. So there were many things that I learned to do. So what I'm going to share with you today is a little bit of those things. So this quote was really great for me when I went through this. And it said, your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions, and your actions become your habits. And your habits become your values, and your values become your destiny. That was always really interesting when people ask me, well, what, destiny, what is that? What's the difference between, destiny and is it, do we choose it, or is it something that's already, in our genetic makeup? And people will say, well, it's between destiny and fate. And I would say destiny is something you do have to choose, and it takes consciousness. And what I mean by that is that you have to really search within inside your heart to really look at all of these qualities, the habits, the actions, the words, the thoughts, the beliefs, because they all do create the makeup of our life. And not just in the outer world, but it also creates our mindset, and it creates our physical body. of whether it's going to be pain or it's going to be healthy. Or so it's really important for us to really look inside. And of course, in our life, in our culture here, we have almost like no reference on how to do that. It's so set up in our world that the outside world is distracting us. It pulls us, whether we're on the TV or on the internet and Facebook and, you know, all these things, shopping, you know, busy, 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 busy. It's like there's no time to really connect. And yet that is actually the answer. So when I looked at this and I came home, I'm like, I need a way to be able to understand that. So I'm going to share a little bit about that and why that's important. Because when we don't, and here's the why that's important, because if we don't look inside and we don't start to understand what's going on those inner realms, we become the product of fate. Fate is what happens when we don't choose. And, you know, some of you might say, well, fate's not so bad. You know, I let somebody else choose for me. It could be a good thing, might be fun. The thing is that what we don't pay attention to, what goes into our unconscious, not only gets kind of squashed down into our bodies as dis-ease, it also gets projected out into the world, and other people have to act it out for us. So the dark sides of ourselves, the parts that we don't like, the parts that we are ashamed of, that we deny, that we neglect, we push aside, they will then get projected out on the world. And that isn't always a good thing. So we want to be able to be really, really good at being able to choose our destiny. So here we go. I said, this is our doorway to destiny. There's two doorways. I always say there's one is through great joy, which is one on the left. You know, that going from the dark night of the soul through great joy, going, oh, I really want this. This is where I want to go. And the other one is through great pain and suffering. And unfortunately, we tend to choose the one on the right a heck of a lot more than the one on the left. And yet, at the same time, this is where the mindset comes in. It's like the doorway of pain can be one of the fastest accelerated process that you could ever have. Pain, like I said, not only wakes us up, it also cleans us out. It really helps us. So the three steps that I'm going to share with you today is connect, purify, and feel. And if you can just remember those three, connecting to a higher version or a version of ourself. And I like to call that, for me, is spirit. Everyone has their own name for it, whether you call it your future self, whether you call it love, truth, electromagnetic field, whatever name you might have for it. For me, I call it spirit. And I always say, this is what helped me get through in 9/11 when I was down in the States. I had to have a version of myself and say, okay, what is it that I want to live into? That perhaps in my life, spirit has put me here at this time, at this place for a reason. Not out of egotistical, but that there's a part of me that is undeveloped, that is unknown, that is meant to give birth. Let me give you another example. When we think of a butterfly, we think, oh, what a beautiful butterfly. It's so incredible. Like, life is just so amazing. They are so free and they're so beautiful. And yet we forget that prior to being a butterfly, they were also caterpillar. And the caterpillar is radically different than a butterfly. I mean, you think about it, you know, furry and on the ground, lots of legs, can't fly. But there's a transformation that happens. And that transformation is the chrysalis, where literally the caterpillar will eat and eat and eat, literally eat itself so much that it gets so fat that it can't move. It is absolutely immobilized. And so when that caterpillar becomes totally immobilized, it then begins to create a cocoon, and a part of itself starts to die. And in that part, these are actually called imaginal cells. And that's actually the scientific name for it, is the caterpillar literally starts to decompose, and there is imaginal cells that start to replicate within this cocoon. These imaginal cells, though, are not recognized by the caterpillar's original cells. And so the caterpillar actually wants to kill it. It actually says, oh my gosh, this is not me. Kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it. This is not me. And what happens is that there's a fight that goes on. It's like which one is going to survive, right? And eventually those imaginal cells start to clump together to create imaginal discs. And then they just keep multiplying and multiplying until eventually it is created into a caterpillar. Now, the caterpillar comes into a butterfly. Now, here's the real magic of it. We know that if we take that chrysalis and we try to break it open to set that butterfly free, the butterfly actually dies. It needs that resistance to push against it, or it will never ever develop its wings. So what happens is that from the caterpillar, it has to change and then push into the butterfly, and then it's free. Now the butterfly, looking back at the caterpillar, I'm sure it has a dialogue going, hey, it's going to be okay. Look at you. Look at you go, little caterpillar. Look at you go. But just wait. I know you're going to hate being in the chrysalis. I know you're going to hate being inside that thing and not knowing what's going to happen and not what's going to go outside. And you're going to feel tight and restricted and uncomfortable. But trust me, it's worth it. It's worth it. And I would love to help you, but I'm going to help you by loving you. I'm going to help you by inspiring you to tell you that on the other side, it's amazing. And so this is what I always would have to connect in, and I still do. And I work with my clients with this too. It's like, let's find the higher version or the higher version of yourself, or connect to something greater that you don't know yet, that your life is calling you, and that this tough time, this challenging time is a new birthing process. It's a new pause. So the next step then is we have to work with, just like that caterpillar having those imaginal cells, not knowing what is good, what is bad. It's just not knowing. It needs to learn how to purify. So this is the next step. And then the third step is we've got to feel. And I look at the bottom and it says, be, do, have. We often think that when I have this, then I'll be happy. Like we tend to put the have at the end, and it's actually in reverse. We actually have to be connected first to some higher version of ourselves or higher perspective. And then from that action, then we take an action, or that connection, then we take an action. And then we will have what we're really seeking, or what is also seeking us. So this is what it asks us. It asks us to basically turn ourselves upside down and see things from a completely different perspective. And I love this quote. This is Rumi, a great mystic back in the 1300s. And it says, don't worry that your life is turning upside down. How do you know that the side you are used to is better than the one to come? And that's so true, isn't it? We get used to our familiar life of like how it was. Like we can even say last week or 2 weeks ago, that was our past life. And we are in the chrysalis right now. We are inside, and up to us right now to then look at what is the imagination, what is that mindset that we need to then connect to, that is then going to allow us to be free, to allow us to really soar and spread our wings. So the connecting. So underneath that connecting is to look at the values. Now, often many people don't know what their values are. And I would say the best way to look at your values is to imagine you're at your end of your life, and what would you have missed? What would you have maybe wanted to put more time, more money, or more attention into? That's one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it, you can also say, is right now, or in your past life, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, a month ago, where were you investing your time? Where were you investing your money? And where are you investing your attention? I use the word invest intentionally, because investing means you're going to get something out of it. When you spend, you don't get things back. So just using even that language, and language is very, very important. Remember, our words also create our reality. They create our habits. They create our reactions. So what have you? And this might be if you've got a pen and paper, or if you just want to drop in and reflect. I'll give you a moment here to just think back a month ago. Where were you putting your time? How are you, putting in your day? Where were you putting your money? Where did it go? And where was your focus or intention going? And it's important to reflect this because now is the time when we're in the chrysalis that we can go, is that really where I want to go forward? Do I want to continue? Some of you might say, yeah, I really liked what I was doing. I really enjoyed it. Or I really would love even more time or more energy to put there. And this is really good because the old saying is that we don't know what we have until it's gone. And I'll say that in that way that for the most part, our health and our lives are taken for granted. We think, oh, I'll be here forever, or my health will be great, or my legs they'll be here. I'll be able to walk and run and for many, many more years. But we don't know. We really don't know. And so to really value and to be grateful for what we have without holding on to it, without grasping, because that's another thing that causes pain too. I'll give you an example. If you're floating down the river, and say it's the Tidnish River, you're floating down the Tidnish River and you're on your little raft or whatever, and it's a beautiful day, and you see this branch and you go to grab the branch, but the tide is going out and the river's moving very, very fast. If you hold on to that branch tightly, you're either going to be pulled off your flotation device or you're going to hurt your arm. So it's like we need to appreciate what's going by in the screen of our life and to value and to pay attention, but not to grasp and hold on to it. So I put a little link down here on the bottom too. If you're interested, I can drop that into the Facebook page as well for you all who would like to go and experience, a little assessment to be able to find that. That's totally up to you. But this is a great time to really connect in with your values. Okay, so the second thing is purification. So in the purification, we need to purify our thoughts. Now, how do you do that, right? When we think about it, it's like washing them. So when we, at the end of the day, and of course right now we're doing this a lot, we're washing our hands. We're washing our hands because we need to purify our hands so that we aren't spreading the virus, we're not, becoming infected. And so we're washing our hands over and over and over again. But we never wash our mind. We don't really wash out the thoughts and our attention. And so what happens is that those thoughts and attention, those beliefs, those attitudes will all get suppressed into our body and then also get pushed back into our unconsciousness. And that is very, very powerful because what we don't pay attention to is going to manifest its way. Remember what I was saying, and it's either going to come out and hurt ourselves physically, or it's going to get projected out into the world. So I always say there's two things that we look at. There's fear and love. Those are the two emotions. And there's danger and joy. So when we look at fear, fear is different than danger. I always have a great acronym for fear. It's called false evidence appearing real. It is not true. It is literally a story that is made up in your mind, and then your body and your reactivity is going to reaction to it. So let me give you an example. So if you go inside and you think right now, I want you to imagine that you've got a lemon that's in your hands. And as you're holding that lemon, I want you to really feel it. And maybe you smell it and you're going to bring all your awareness to it. And it's a juicy lemon. It's such a ripe lemon. And then you cut that lemon in half and you see how juicy it is and it smells beautiful. And then you bring it up to your mouth and you sink your teeth in it. What do you taste? And what just happened in your physicality or your body? You might have had a physical response. Your mouth might have watered or puckered, or maybe even that thought made you kind of scrunch your face up when you thought about even bringing it up to your mouth. Well, this is what I mean. Our thoughts actually play out on our body, and our body has a reaction. So was it real? Did we really have a lemon in our hand? No, you used your imagination. although your physical body didn't know what was real and what was imagined. This is what I mean by false evidence appearing real. Now, it's different than danger. Danger is different. I wouldn't tell you to run across the street in the middle of a busy freeway full of traffic, because that's dangerous. That's dangerous. But you don't have to be afraid going across the street, and that's the difference. Fear is a choice. Danger is a reality. So I just want to make that distinction. The other emotion that we have is love. Love is really who we are. When we think of the true blueprint of our soul, when you think of a little baby coming into this world, it is absolutely perfect. It knows absolutely nothing other than love. Now, we get programmed and we get beliefs and things happen to us that we start to lay down fears and doubts and worries because we start to build up those mindset. But our essence is truly love. And so that is also the expression of joy. Joy is coming from when we're connected to love. And we can have joy in great turmoil, and we can have joy in great blessings. Both can be there and present. So looking at this in your life, it takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of stuff from us, basically. So how do we purify it? What do we do? So when we look at this, the biggest things is it's not about the power of positive thinking. And this is what we often say. It's like, oh, just think positively, Stephanie. Just think positive. It's all going to be good. Think of that higher version. Think of that butterfly. It's all good. Yes, it is. And there's more underneath it. So when I always say success really is a habit, it's really a mindset. It has not really a lot to do with you were born with it or all those different things. It's what you have done consistently underneath the surface. People don't see this. It's like the iceberg here. There's persistence, there's failure, there's sacrifice, there's disappointment, there's discipline, there's hard work, there's dedication. This is what people don't see. And how we approach it in our mindset, how we work through it, and how we literally chip away at it is what then gets put up on the upside. So it's beyond that. And I always say, if we don't look underneath the water, the good old Titanic there, if we don't address the self-doubt, the limiting beliefs, the traumas, the self-sabotage, or the patterns, this is all the deep unconscious, what we squash down and we don't want to look at. These are the fears. And I like to call them the dreaded D's. I said often, if we don't look at these parts, what happens to the dreaded D's? Divorce, dismissal, debt, denial, and death. These are the outcomes. So it's worth it, isn't it? Isn't it worth it to go inside our own hearts and start to, it's like buried treasure, start to literally uncover all of those things that are inside and say, okay, are those really true? Are those really? So that we can bring it up into the conscious and that we can stay above the water and move forward and be an inspiration. So a little bit of science. We have this really interesting thing called the reticular activating system, or called the RAS. And you'll see the little picture here. It's very, very fascinating because it controls so much in our life. And it's habitual. We have actually trained it. And so when people say, well, that's just my reality, that's just the way it is, what they've done is really hardwired the reticular activating system to literally respond to that. So here's what's really interesting. If you have a belief system that life is hard, it's going to struggle, or that the world is going to hell in a handbasket, then literally your reticular activating system is going to wire your brain to only pick up information from anywhere in the world that is going to validate that belief. You'll miss everything else out in the world because it literally has an MO, a mission, to literally help you be right. So the reticular activating system controls your sleeping, your waking and attention. It's a very sophisticated filter. So what it means is that if you tell your reticular activating system that you are seeking to find a higher purpose or a higher way in this world to understand what is happening and what you're meant to become, all of a sudden this reticular activating system, it's like a little beep, 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 beep. It starts like a homing device, and it starts to find people and places and things that are literally going to help you connect to that. Hold on here. I've got a question. So I've got a question. I'm just going to ask that. So I'll just stop sharing for a minute. That's a pretty heavy topic in that way. So has someone got a question with that? I just saw that little tap. You're all good? All right. Amber, you're good? There. Amber, do you want to unmute? I was almost feeling you talking.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I wrote it in the chat, but I guess if you don't see it, I was just asking if it was the same thing as the pineal gland. Is that also called the pineal gland?
That I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. I've just heard it as the reticular activating system. It's kind of like your little messenger center. And what's interesting is that you can train it to it's about fight or flight. Is the reticular activating system. It always wants to protect you. So it could be. I'm not familiar with the other ones. So, but it is all about fight or flight.
It's like that walnut looking thing in the middle of the brain.
The pineal gland. No, it's different.
Yeah.
It's different.
Okay.
It's different. Okay. Yeah, it's different.
I just didn't know your names.
Oh, that's good. Good question. Thank you. All right. Let's go back to that. So this is what's so cool is that the reticular activating system is all about fight or flight. And so this is what happens when we go into a fear mode, when we are literally scaring the living bejeebies out of ourselves with the mindset, like, oh my gosh, this is horrible, this is a bad thing. What we're doing, just like that lemon, we're literally evoking not only a physicality of a physical response, we're also creating the reticular activating system to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And this is meant to protect us. So when we are afraid, we go into three modes actually. We either fight against something, so we'll retaliate, or we'll run away and hide, or we'll do the third thing, which is freezing. We just like numbness, absolute numbness. And when we freeze, we tend to do something that is going to numb us out even more. So that's where addictions come from. So trauma is almost every addiction. There is a traumatic event that usually has precipitated it. And traumatic, and I don't mean in the outer world, traumatic and also inside too, where we've neglected our loving true self inside. But here's the good news with reticular activating system is that when you don't give it the energy, when you start to then take away, like it's like you're taking away its food, it actually shrinks, which means you're actually safer, you're actually healthier, and you have more energy. This is a good thing because then we become, instead of reactive or running or fighting, then we become more responsive and loving. It is safer. It's a really interesting thing. So it allows us to focus on what we value. And so that's why it's really important that we get clear about our values and that it alerts us when there's a threat. And it also supports us when we are wanting to goal set. So it could be simple things of saying, hey, look, I want to have, I want to lose some weight. I want to be healthier. I want to be more active. And then all of a sudden you start to attract different things that are showing up to really support that. People, places, events, ideas, all of these things will start to come into your reticular activating system. And I put here beliefs. Beliefs are what you will be living. So be really, really mindful about what you're telling yourself and what you are believing about that and where it came from. Sometimes our beliefs, we go, when we really stop and slow down, we go, okay, that belief, is that really true? Or where did I learn that? Is that something that's come from my past life? 2 weeks ago, 2 years ago, 20 years ago? Is that something that my culture believes into? Because cultures also have, really concrete beliefs as well. But this is where we want to challenge it. And I always say, does that belief inspire you and empower you to become your higher version of yourself? Or does it disempower you and disengage you? And this is the key. So we want to be that higher version of ourselves we need to then connect belief systems that will literally empower and engage them. So the next thing, feel. You got to feel it to heal it. Oh my gosh, people just do not like this one. So, feeling. We want to, at all costs, and I don't say that this is our true self, I would say this is our conditioned self that is afraid to feel anything. And I'm not just talking about the what we would call the nasty stuff, the icky feelings of sadness or anger or fear. Some of us actually are kind of addicted on those ones. We don't even allow ourselves to feel joy or love. We then shorten it up and say, oh, I can't do that. I feel guilty, or I feel ashamed. I shouldn't feel that way. Or, okay, we've had too much fun. We need to settle it down. It's like what we do is we put a lid on both of the good feelings, the feeling fluffy, buffy feelings, and we also put the lid on the feelings that we don't want to feel. We squash them. And so again, we put them into our body and we stuff them into our body. And this is why we feel tired all the time. Tired or energetic. It's like our thoughts literally change the way that we respond. So if you are constantly pushing these emotions down, I mean, how many times do you feel like, I mean, I know this myself. I've been feeling this myself personally. It's like, wow, I have hardly done anything today, like in the outer world physically, and I'm exhausted because emotions, unexpressed emotions, are exhausting. I mean, how many times have we had a really good cry and then we feel so like cathartic that we can have a really great sleep, and then we wake up and we feel so much lighter. It's like something has gotten off our chest or off our shoulders. It's like we've lightened up. And that is the antidote for everything. Remember, it's love. Love is our state of our true self. And to lighten up is to also allow ourselves to feel it. So let's just take a moment. I just think it's a really great opportunity to check in with ourselves right now. So just take a moment, close your eyes, and check in with your body right now. And I'm going to have you breathe slow and long and deep, just relaxing. You're in a safe place. And maybe take a note of what are you feeling right now? You might be feeling a lot of things, or you might not know what you're feeling. That's very common. And you might say, geez, I feel tight. Well, that's an expression of a feeling. But when we say feelings, if we can name it, like I feel anger or sadness or afraid, I feel fear. So you might feel the physical sensation, but if you go to that physical sensation in your body, say, what is that feeling that's creating this tension or tightness or heaviness? What is it? And it's okay, again, not to know. This is a practice. And you might, maybe if there's an area in your body that's sore, maybe your back is a little sore, tight, or your neck and shoulders, you might want to touch it. It helps a lot. Touching is so important. I mean, touching is to our soul like food and water is to our physical body. We really need touch. And so we tend to look at it from touch from other people, from hugs. But we also need to learn how to hold ourselves, to give ourselves loving touch. So feel free to just maybe put a hand on the area that might be sore or tight. And I want you to breathe into this area, connecting to this area, because again, pain or tension or soreness, it wakes us up. It wakes us up. It makes us present. and connect to that higher version of yourself that perhaps the pain, the ache, is just weather. It's just a weather system that's in there that's passing, but that's also purifying. Our feelings purify us. And when we're connected to our future self, our higher version of ourself that's loving and that's kind, then we can invite that part in with us to go there. It makes it safe, that we are cared for, that we are nurtured. And as you breathe into this area, perhaps ask it, what does it believe that's creating this sensation, this feeling? What does it believe? And if you have a pen and a paper and you want to write that down, you can write it down. But also looking at, how has that belief been creating pain in my life? This is where we really need to feel it, because it takes away a lot of joy, a lot of love, a lot of connection, a lot of really great things. And we pay a price from these patterns. Like, you stay connected to that loving, higher version of yourself that's there with you. And maybe there's some tears, or maybe there's anger or fear that keeps coming up. And just know that these are the weather patterns that are just passing through, just like clouds going across the sky, just passing through. And that you're bringing love and attention to this area, tending to it, nurturing it. This is emotional soul food here. And you may need to do this a few times. It's okay. But sometimes this part that has now been given a chance to really feel what they're feeling, that part inside of you, maybe it needs something from you in the way of attention or kindness. Maybe there's something you've been neglecting, that this part says, please, I really need you to pay attention to this. And we listen to it. Or maybe it just says, thank you. I needed that. I needed that cry, or I needed to express that anger, that fear. Thank you. And remind that part that you are so sorry that you haven't tended to this enough, but that you're there for it now. And that anytime there's a pain or discomfort or even a numbness, that you will go in and tend to it with love, with kindness. And that you'll seek out what the belief or the thought that has been running, that's been hurting it. And then gradually, slowly, coming back. Allowing yourself to be like the butterfly, to feel that freedom, that space. And sometimes we can still feel in it, if that's okay too. There's a lot of things that we need to purify sometimes. But it's not just us. You see, this is where we're so connected. I said, no time in our entire history of the world have we all gone through this, what we're going through right now. It's all going through this. And it's time that we all have to look at what is the virus. And by the way, when we look at healing, by the time something shows up on the physical body, it has been in our mind, meaning in our mind field. It's been in the suppression of our emotions, and it's been in our spiritual bodies or our energetic bodies long, 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 long time before it manifests physically. So when it shows up in the body, and I look at this from whatever is happening in my life, in my client's life, that when there's pain, disease, discomfort, it's often our deep self that's saying, hey, it's time to connect. I really, really love you, and I really, really need you to come in. What a gift it can be, because lives do change, they do evolve. So when I moved back home from the States, I didn't come home to the same home that I left, because I was no longer the caterpillar. And not to say that I was the butterfly, but I was definitely in the chrysalis coming out of that. I think we're always evolving into more and more butterflies. As long as we're here, there is beauty and life to expand upon. So I needed to find a way to really stay nurturing to what was important, what was true to me. And I knew community was important to me. I knew my health was important to me. And I knew my loved ones were important to me. So instead of running and chasing the world, which is what I was doing, thinking I was going to make more money to be able to come back someday and give back philanthropy-wise, realizing that what would happen if your money was all gone, which is an interesting case and scenario right now in the world, is that really the definition of wealth is what you have when your money is all gone. It's actually your health, your community, your resourcefulness, your creativity, your skills, your talents, your gifts, your passion. We have these things in abundance, and we tend to neglect them. So it's a shift in perspective, because I truly believe we are so wealthy, and we haven't really truly let that in yet. So I'm going to give you one more practice before we go, and then we're going to also do a little question answer here too. So breathing. So here's another example too. I like this one as well. It's a great practice. I want you to just close your eyes again, and I've got this up on the screen, so it'll have this in the recording. But close your eyes and just being present to your breath. And think of a challenge in your life, a difficulty, an uncertainty. And when you are thinking of it fully, putting all of your sensory awareness there, notice what happens to your breathing. It might be more of an effort to breathe. You might even feel your heart rate speed up. Your breath might be shallow and fast or non-existent. And now take a deep breath in and let it out. And think of your safe place. We all have a safe place that we go, a place that is nurturing and loving, where we can rest. And I want you to put yourself there. Put all the sounds, smells, taste. Let yourself rest. And notice how your breathing might be different. Our breath is our connection. Our breath is our connection to the higher version of ourselves. And the more we create that connection with our breathing, the less reactivity we will have, the greater inner peace we will have in times of uncertainty, because we're going to connect with that higher version, like the butterfly that is on the other side of the chrysalis, cheering us on, saying, you go for it. This is going to be the best thing that's ever happened. I know it feels awful. I know it's hard, but it's going to be the most extraordinary time in your life. Allow yourself to literally breathe that in. And from that place, we take different actions. We create different outcomes. So allow yourself to bring yourself back. Let's just do a quick check-in, just to review the 3 things to mindset mastery. It's to connect. Let yourself just be. Breathe. When you feel like you're kind of going off the rails, or you just have so much on your plate and you can hear that mindset going and going, just promise yourself just to say, I'm going to stop. I'm going to connect with my breathing. I'm going to go to my safe place inside and imagine that connection to my higher version of myself, my future self, the beauty, the butterfly, whatever works for you, and just breathe it in. And as you're breathing, you're going to start to, I call it, dump the junk. You're going to take the mind thoughts and take them to the curb for garbage day to pick up. So the limiting thoughts, those beliefs that are not empowering you. And this is also, I put in here too, and it's also a great time to journal. If there's a lot going on in your mind, remember your mind will make you exhausted, make you heavy, tired, and it will make you disconnect and choose all kinds of things that aren't going to be of value to you. So you might want to journal about it and say, hey, this is what's going on. This is what I'm feeling. And then just noticing as that stream of consciousness is letting go, it's making space, it's getting going. You may have feelings come up, which is the 3rd thing. And to embrace those feelings, to say that feeling is just emptying out. It's like house cleaning. It's weather. It's moving out through me. It's making space. One of the most difficult things about grief, and also the most beautiful things about grief, is that when our hearts are on the ground, when we feel broken open, there is that space that we are now open to really connect with love. We are literally surrendered, totally surrendered, that people then come and care for us. They feed us, they hug us, they love us. It's like, otherwise we push it away, don't we? We go, oh no, I don't have time for that. Oh, no, you don't need to do that for me. It's okay. But when our heart is literally broken open, we let it in. And we're meant to let it in. This is the dance of being a human being, is that we are meant to come into relationship with love, with each other. And love doesn't actually break us. It actually breaks the ego, the belief systems that say, I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy, or any of those things that are the shame, the guilt. It breaks that. It breaks those belief systems that are disempowering, so that our hearts can become even bigger. And all good things, when we take that in, then only good will come, because then we will want to give it back. And it creates that whole cycle of love and remembrance. So these are the 3 things I highly recommend. So connect, purify, empty out those limiting thoughts, those belief systems, journal, and really let yourself feel. It's okay. It's okay to feel what you feel. And then repeat, come back to the connection. As long as we're feeling from that connected place of love, we're feeling that connected place that there's a higher version, that butterfly that's coming for us, we will then respond differently, and our bodies respond differently. And lo and behold, eventually we will become the better version of ourselves. So back to the destiny, we have to choose it. And our beliefs become our thoughts. thoughts become our beliefs, our words, words become actions, actions become habits, habits become values, and values become our destiny. And this is by Gandhi. Be the change you want to see in the world. And in order to do that, we have to go inside our hearts. And this is why collectively we are inside. It's time and it's okay. It's permission. So I will stop my sharing. I'd love to hear a little bit from you on how things are there. Lovely to see you all and have you all here. I'm very grateful. Is there anything, any questions, any comments? You doing all right?
I actually have a question. Thank you so much for doing this today. This was fantastic. But I'm finding I'm being a lot with myself because the isolation and being alone. What can we do to expand on that isolation and kind of get out of ourselves?
Yeah, you when you say out of yourself, Elizabeth, you mean like that lower self, that curmudgeon part that's fighting it? Is that what you mean?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, totally.
Yeah, yeah. So they always think of those. There's many selves within us. If you think of the self, like there's an inner child, there's an inner teenager, there's a critical parent in there. But there's also a loving parent. There's also a hero and a heroine in there. There's also a creator in there. There's all these what Carl Jung would call them as archetypes playing in our hearts, right? But I love to stick with it like the three: critical parent, teenager, and the child. And when we think of a child, we would never tell a child to go to work and pay bills and be married. And that freaks the child out. That child is meant to play. So what happens is the teenager, well then, because the teenager is the rebel, it's like, I'll protect you. And dang it, you can't make us stay inside. I want my freedom. I have a right. And that's that real chutzpah in you, right? To get out there. But the teenager is also only 14, 15, 16. It doesn't have the life. It has a lot of life force, but it doesn't have the wisdom of life and experience. And then you have a critical parent that's trying to manage all of them. And that critical parent is what the teenager will want to rebel against and what the child will then feel afraid and cower and hide. So there's the loving part of ourselves. And that's why I said, if you can imagine a butterfly as that higher version of yourself or spirit, or, you know, your ideal, beautiful self, that the self that you don't even know yet, but the self that you were actually born to become, the loving, loving, loving parent. And sometimes it helps too to imagine if you have had like a teacher or an aunt or an uncle or a grandparent or a friend who's been so loving, who was so compassionate just to listen and to be there for you. If you can imagine that, then imagine that person in your heart, because this is what happens. There's a saying in mystical tradition that, you know, when we die, you know, our bodies die, but our soul never dies. It's eternal. And as long as someone remembers them in their heart with love, they live through their heart, which is, I find, is such a tribute to somebody. So it's like when we think of, well, what would so-and-so do? When we say that, we're saying, well, I love this person for this quality. And so she had that quality. What would she do with this right now? And if you embody that and bring that in, then they live forever. They live within you and they are giving you that gift. That's the beauty of it. And so my suggestion would be is like to really connect with that part inside. Feel the whatever's coming up. It's important to feel it because that's going to discharge it. And that's where you can write about it, or you can just, you just need to express it. Feel it. And then allow that loving part to come in, whether it's a friend, grandmother, and just say, I got you. I got you. It's okay. I'm here with you. We can do this. Breathe with it and allow yourself to rest and be, if that helps. I mean, it's a challenge, absolutely. And yet, again, coming from that higher version, we have we have been granted this opportunity, this pause, this reset. So I would say, what's good about it? This is an empowering question, right? An empowering belief. It's like, what if this was the best thing that ever happened to help humanity wake up and to really step into the possibility of what we can be for all of each other, for the planet, for the oceans, for the animals, for the children, for, oh my gosh, for so much. Like, this is where great creativity actually gets birthed. If you look back in time, and any time in humanity when there's been crisis or difficulty, is when the great saints and masters came about, or it's when there was great change, or it's amazing. It's like, we all chose, all of us on here right now, all of us in this planet right now, we all chose this time to be born. So there's something in us that is needing to take root and to take sprout. And what does that is the weather. The weather inside is as emotion. So when we feel the angst, we feel the tiredness, we feel the sadness, to allow that to be the weather that is actually rotor rooting ourselves and reestablishing a whole new thing. But it's definitely where, where we're coming from. If we come from a place of that critical parent, or that scared little child, or that rebellious teenager, it's not going to turn out right. It's not going to turn out really well. But if we come from that loving parent or that loving being that's inside of us, it's going to have a different perspective, like different view through the glasses, isn't it? Does that help, Elizabeth?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, this is great. I've got lots of questions in here. Okay, so I'm going to read them. It says, I feel like I need to fire the itty bitty shitty committee every day now. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And we need to keep, so it's like, who's the committee that's in charge, right? So if it's the itty bitty shitty committee, absolutely, we need to say, wait a minute, I need the loving committee in here. What would a loving parent or a loving grandparent say to me right now? And yeah, I need a note on my fridge to remind me to do this. I love that. That's a great action step. Love it. This is really helpful. I think the journaling right now is so helpful, especially around the kinds of thoughts that are limiting right now. Wonderful thing to do. You can journal, put all the limiting thoughts down on one, like take a piece of paper and fold it in half, and then open it again, and you have the crease down the middle, and on one side write down all of the limiting beliefs that are literally running you right now. And you might even feel them. You're like, ooh, I really feel that one. There's a my angry teenager wants to come up with that one, or my scared little child wants to hide on that one. Feel those feelings, and then on the other side, I want you to take them and make empowering statements. So let's take an example. Give me an example. Somebody give me, I need an example. So life is horrible. That's a belief system. I can't trust anybody. How will I ever trust my neighbors again? That's a good one, right? How can I ever trust? I can't trust. And then be with that one. Feel it. It's like, is that really true? And how does that make me feel? Ew. And really feel, you got to feel it. And you say, that's not my higher version, is it? That's not the version of life I want to live. I want to trust my neighbors. I want to love my neighbors. I want to be coming into closer in connection. So what would I need to believe? What would be, and it doesn't mean it's Pollyanna blind faith sort of thing. Remember, fear is optional, danger is real. So fear is the belief system. So it's a different. So that I can trust myself. I can trust myself. I can trust my loving version of my higher version of myself to give me guidance of whether I should go or stay. I'm going to build my relationship with that neighbor inside myself. So that could be more of an empowering statement. Yeah, that's a great one. Oh, yeah. My photo did not, okay, yeah, that's fine. Photos didn't show up. That's good. That's all right. And yes, can we share this with others to see? Absolutely. We're going to, this is recorded. I'm going to be giving this to the town and to the county so that it's going to be up and running. And absolutely, please share. I think it's important that we share this for now too. Okay, good limiting belief. Yes, limiting belief. This will never change. Excellent one. That's an excellent one to purify, isn't it? And I call it cloud busting. Let's bust that one. This will never change. And it's like, this will never change. It's like everything is changing. and I'm leading the change. What if we empowered ourselves to say, I'm leading a positive change by how I am with myself, how I'm nurturing myself, how I'm caring for myself, how I'm working with those limiting beliefs inside. That's a good one. Excellent. Thank you. All right. If there's nothing, I've got one thing to, a little saying from the elders of the Hopi Nation, which I referred to back to when I left Arizona in 2001 after 9/11. This is what I held onto. This is one of the things that really came into my heart. And I've kept it on my little bulletin board on my inspirational altar every day. And it's called "This is the Hour." This is the hour. We have been telling the people that this is the 11th hour. Now we must go back and tell the people that this is the hour. And there are things to be considered. Where are you living? What are you doing? Are you in right relation? Where is your water? Where is your garden? It is time to speak your truth. Create your community and be good to each other. Do not look outside yourself for the leader. This could be the time. The river is flowing now very fast. It is so great and swift that there are those who will be afraid. They will try to hold on to the shore. They will feel that they are being torn apart and they will suffer greatly. Know that the river has a destiny. The elders say we must let go of the shore, push off and jump into the river, keep our eyes open and our head above water. See who is there with you and celebrate. For this time in history, we are to take nothing personally, least of all ourselves. For the moment that we do, our spiritual growth and journey will come to a halt. The time of the lone wolf is over. Gather yourselves. Banish the word struggle from your attitude and your vocabulary. All that you do now must be done in a sacred manner and with celebration. We are the ones we've been waiting for, the Hopi elders. So thank you all. May you be safe. May you be well. May you be at peace. Blessings to you all.
Thanks.